Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. On today's video, I'm going to put a twist on the traditional pastrami and I'm going to make it Texas style. Stay tuned. All right, so let's go over the ingredients that I'm going to be using for my brine. I've got a 1/4 cup of honey, 2 sticks of cinnamon, 3/4 of a cup of kosher salt, and also 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. I've got a 1/4 cup of curing salt and 1 cup of this pickling spice. Now you can buy this pickling spice or you can buy everything separate. I just find it easy to buy everything in the pickling spice in one. So this has cinnamon, allspice, mustard seed, coriander, bay leaves, ginger, chilies, cloves, black pepper, mace, and cardamom, okay? So everything in one. All right, so I'm just gonna move this aside and bring out my induction burner. All right, so I've got my induction burner. This one happens to be from Heston Q. And I gotta tell you, if you're looking at getting one, this is one that you definitely wanna look at. I'll leave a link inside the description box so you can grab yourself one if you want to and get a discount. So I'm gonna put this on a medium high. Now these induction burners work fantastic with cast iron. Okay, it's gonna heat up really quick. All right, so my cast iron is nice and hot, so I'm just gonna add the 1 cup of pickling spices. And it smells really good. Now by warming this up, you're really gonna release the aromatics on these ingredients, okay? It smells fantastic. I can already smell the cinnamon. I'm gonna add my 2 cinnamon sticks in there. Now you want to keep stirring this. You don't want to burn your pickling spice. One nice thing about toasting your spices like this is your house is going to smell really good for the next couple of hours. So while my cast iron is still a little bit warm, I'm going to add about 1 quart of water. Be careful. Okay. And continue to stir that. So there's enough heat in this cast iron to melt down my brown sugar and my salt. So that's what I'm adding next. Just keep stirring that. Blend it all together. All right, so now that the brown sugar and the salt is fully dissolved, I'm gonna go ahead and add my 1/4 cup of curing salt. Just like that. And mix it in. So the reason we're adding the curing salt is because this brisket is going to sit inside this brine for 7 days, okay? And the curing salt is going to help protect that brisket and really keep it from going bad, okay? So I'm just going to move this aside. I'm going to pull out the brisket and we'll trim it up. Stay tuned. All right, so we're starting with a 17-pound brisket. I'm just going to grab my Dalstrong knife. So when I open up these brisket packages, I like to cut right here on this decal because I'm going to be removing that decal anyway, so that way you don't carve into your brisket. All right, so now you guys have seen me trim a ton of briskets, and that's essentially what we're going to do to this brisket that we're going to turn into a Texas style pastrami, okay? I like to start with the decal, remove that. I'm going to clean up some of this surface fat. I'm going to be trimming this edge right here. And do not toss your brisket trimmings, especially if you're into making sausage. Now this brisket was a USDA prime, so you don't need a lot of this surface fat, especially on the fat cap side, okay? There's some nice marbling on this brisket to begin with. So I'm just gonna flip it around. I want about 1/4 inch of fat, so I'm just gonna trim this fat cap up and I'll bring you guys right back. All All right, so I've got the brisket all trimmed up. Now I do want to show you this side of the brisket. Now this point was a mangled mess and I tried to clean it up as much as possible. So this brisket was sitting really high, okay? And as I mentioned before, you can actually dig this piece of fat out. That's gonna allow your brisket to lay flat. Now I am gonna be smoking this with the fat cap up on my Yoda Frontiersman, but again, not for 7 days, okay? So I'm just gonna move this aside. All right, so this is a pan where I'm gonna put my brisket in to brine. So I'm just gonna grab the brisket. So as you can see, I do have this wire mesh under my brisket, and that's really gonna allow that brine to work its way under that brisket. But on the 3rd day, I'm gonna come into my fridge and flip this brisket with a fat cap down. So at this point, I'm gonna add my brine. Again, this was only 1 quart, but I am gonna be adding 3 more quarts of water. Okay, if you do have some left on your pan like I do, that's okay. Grab your water and rinse off your cast iron pan. So get it all in there. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna add the remaining of my water. Again, I'm using a total of 1 gallon of water. And I might need to add a little bit more just to cover this brisket. All right, so now I'm just gonna cover this pan with some plastic wrap, pop it in my fridge, and again, in 3 days, I'm gonna come back and flip this brisket. We'll see you guys in 7 days. Actually, for you guys, it's probably like half a second. All right, so it's been 7 days since we put our brisket inside the brine. Now, one ingredient that I did forget to put inside the brine was 8 cloves of garlic. I just smashed them with the back of my knife and put them inside the brine. Now, on the 3rd day, I did come and flip the brisket, and this is what we got. All right, so let's take a look at this brisket. I did line the plastic with some foil as well. Oh, this smells really good. So what I'm gonna do here is just take the brisket out, and I'm gonna rinse it under cold water to remove that excess salt on the surface and also the pickling spices that we used. So I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so let's put our rub together for our pastrami. I've got half a cup of black pepper. Remember, we're trying to keep this Texas style or build a Texas style bark, if you will. So I'm just adding half a cup of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of paprika. I've got 1.5 tablespoons of granulated garlic and half a tablespoon of cumin. All right, so just cover up your shaker and give that a really good mix. All right, so I'm using mustard as a binder for our pastrami, so just add a good layer and spread that all over your brisket. Don't forget to get the sides and also your fat cap. All right, so I'm just gonna apply a really good layer of our rub on both sides. All right, so I've got the brisket completely rubbed down. I've got my smoker running at 275 degrees. We'll see you guys outside. All right, so I've got my Yoda Frontiersman running at 275 degrees. So I'm just gonna grab the brisket, pastrami, put on the top shelf, just like that, with a point pointing towards that firebox. So I'm gonna let this smoke for a couple of hours. I'll bring you guys back at that point. Stay tuned. All right, so 2 hours into our cook, let's take a look at our pastrami and see if we need to spritz. Oh man, that is looking really nice. All right, so that bark is definitely set. And I like that the fat is really rendering from right in between the point and the flat right here. This is where I gouged out that really heavy fat piece that was right here. And that allows the brisket to lay a little bit flatter on your smoker. So I'm gonna go ahead and spritz. So I am spritzing with apple cider vinegar and water mixed at 50-50. Again, I'm treating this just like a brisket. I want that really nice Texas bark that we like out here in Texas. All right, so I'm just gonna slide the pastrami back into my smoker. We'll check back in about 2.5 hours right before I wrap. Stay tuned. All right, so the brisket has been on for 5 hours and I've got this gorgeous bark on it. So now I'm just gonna wrap it in butcher paper. So I'm gonna spritz the brisket one more time. Again, I'm using apple cider vinegar and water. It's a little windy out here. I like to wet the butcher paper as well. All right, so now I'm just gonna wrap it up. A lot of people have asked me how I keep the brisket from sticking to the butcher paper. So I like to roll my butcher paper out extra long, and this extra flap right here, just tuck it on the bottom. That way your meat doesn't stick to the butcher paper. So just real simple. Just like that. So you're giving your brisket that extra layer of protection from the heat. So I'm gonna be using this meter probe. And just in case you're wondering, the temperature was 170 degrees before I wrapped it. All right, so I'm gonna put the pastrami back inside my smoker and I'm gonna pull it out once it's nice and tender, which is usually about 205 degrees. Stay tuned. All right, so my meter alarm went off. The internal temperature of that pastrami is 203 degrees. Just gonna check for tenderness. Don't mind these beautiful ribs up here. That's for a different cook. So again, I'm just gonna check for 10. Oh my goodness. That is like butter right there. Look at that. All right, so I'm gonna pull the pastrami off. I'm gonna place it in my Cambro for about 3 hours, let it cool down, let all the juices come back together. We'll see you guys inside. Stay tuned. All right, so the pastrami has been resting for 3 hours. Let's unwrap this. And the internal temperature, believe it or not, is still 160 degrees. I'm gonna take out my meter probe and unwrap this baby. And it is extremely juicy. Look at all these juices coming out. Look at this. Is that pretty crazy or what? But it smells delicious. I'm gonna try not to make a mess. Oh, baby. Look at this. I'm just gonna take it out and put it on my cutting board here. All right, let's take some slices and see how we did here. Ooh, really nice color right out of the gate. Look at that. So this red color that you see right here in our pastrami, that comes from our salt cure. Look at that. Really nice and juicy. Look at this. This is money right here. Okay. Let's give it the old pull test. Oh yes, extremely tender. I'm gonna keep on slicing this. I'll bring you guys back. We're gonna make a sandwich. Stay tuned. All right, let's put this pastrami sandwich together. I got some spicy brown mustard here. Gonna add plenty of that. And on the other slice of bread, I'm gonna add some Duke's mayo, my favorite mayo, and no, they don't sponsor this channel. Just like that. Next, I'm gonna add some Swiss cheese. Just a couple slices like that. Then I'm gonna be adding some of the flat on this sandwich. Get some big old pieces in there. Just like that. And I'm gonna top this with a nice big slice of the point right there. Put our top on it. Let's cut this bad boy in half. Oh, that's money. Let's give it a taste. All right, let's see how we did on our smoked pastrami. Look at this monster sandwich right here. There we go. All All right, so first off, this pastrami right here is 100 times better than anything that you can buy from the store. I've smoked plenty of those prepackaged briskets in the past, and those things are extremely salty. You can soak them in water for 2 days and they're still gonna be salty. Now this right here is money. I hope you guys like this video. If you've never made pastrami before, give it a shot. It's super simple. If this is your first time to my channel, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions, ask them down below. Until next time, Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. See ya.